Okay, this is the Launch One podcast. I'm Mason Springer. Today we're here with Ethan Featheroff. Ethan is a good buddy of mine. We met here a couple years ago. We hunt near each other. Ethan is a businessman. He is a buck hunter. I mean, he loves the outdoor industry. He is quite the expert, and that's why we got him on today. Ethan, it is getting really close to prime rut here.
Yeah, for
You're
sure.
already tagged out, but
Yeah, cool.
what's your rut report looking like?
So to be honest, it's been pretty crazy because obviously, I guess you and I talked about it a little bit. I do a lot of drone recovery and stuff, and I've been, I guess, fortunate enough to do a lot of recovery. So I'm seeing a lot of what the actual deer are doing, and right now it's a lot of chasing in the morning, and on some of these recoveries, obviously, I do see other deer and what they're doing. Just right now, from what I've seen, most of the mature bucks are just laying on their bellies until about the last 30 minutes of light, and then all of a sudden, boom, if you're in the right spot in that last 30 minutes and you got a doe around you, like, it is on right now. But it's in that last 30 minutes. And then probably
Really?
till like, and even this morning, I was on another drone call, and then till about 10 or 11 o'clock, like, dude, every buck was chasing this morning. And then they all just lay down, kind of just chill. And then I'm starting to see, obviously, if you're baiting and stuff like that, a lot of the bucks are, and that's when they're like that 10 or 11 o'clock, you might actually get them on a corn pile because they're just slipping away from the does for just a little bit. And I had a guy actually shoot a nice one last night, and his boy was hunting in the morning, and he pulled one of those I'm gonna outsmart the guide type of things because he saw the buck chasing down over the hill, chasing the doe. So his dad's like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna sit in the stand you hung up for me." And that night he shot that buck, came in by itself without a doe because it's like I tried to explain to him, I was like, at some point they're gonna break off for a little bit and come to feed, and when they do, you'll have a good chance because I've seen those bucks in there a lot. So I mean, it's fairly active right now, even with the warm weather, I would say for the most part.
Yeah, well, that's really good.
Yeah.
So run me down your business, right? Feathernet Outdoors.
Yeah.
I've got a broad idea of what exactly that is, but what all does that encompass?
Dude, a little bit of everything. So if there's something we can put our hands in, we try to do it. But first and foremost, like the field staff program at Feathernet Outdoors, we try to teach a lot of education. The big thing is education and trying to give people hunting opportunities that maybe they don't want to spend. Obviously, we do guiding and stuff too, but maybe people don't have the money for something like that. So what we do is like a membership program that's either you can pay 25 bucks a month, or you can do 150 and pay for a year, or you can do 800 bucks and pay for a lifetime membership. And what that gives you is kind of some opportunity to be able to network with other, regular like-minded guys that are just looking for cheap ways and places to hunt and travel and go out of state. And we have what we actually created. It's called a team member map. So there's 1,000 of us on it. And the cool thing about it is it shows a pin in the state that every member's in, and it doesn't specifically show their lands, but it says what they're looking to hunt and what they have to offer. So you can easily get on there, tap on it, and it'll say, call Mason Springer. He's looking to trade a hunt in Ohio to go to Iowa to shoot a whitetail. And then you guys can
Mm,
literally just link up and swap hunts. And it's that easy. So kind of, and for 25 bucks a month, you get that. Plus you get obviously, Malta, Habit, Feathernet gear, pretty much I think we have 20 new partners this year. And people get
really?
like 50 to 30% off of all of that gear, whether it's, food plot stuff, anything like that. And
Yeah.
it's a cool opportunity. You're getting opportunities to hunt and then save money on hunting product. And then we actually have a mapping course coming out. It's going to be pretty cool with Greg from Next Level Whitetails. And basically what it's going to do is break down everything on Onyx and show people how to use things like your topos and things like that you might not know how to use. So for all the guys going in there scouting that public land, it's just going to be one more thing you can put on your tool belt there to help you out and kind of break down the properties before you get there. And to me, that's something I still probably have a learning curve with using like the topos and all that stuff and really understanding what I'm looking at. So I'm looking forward to getting through the whole course with them on that. So, but
Yeah.
it's a little bit
So
of everything.
yeah, that's really big. I mean, that's a really great business you got going on there, and we'll have to talk more about that. But
Yeah, yeah.
that
So
puts that puts you in front of a lot of hunters, right? Like you're in touch with all these
yeah,
guys this time of year. Like I mean, I picture you as like a hub of information, like up to date. You know what's going down. You already mentioned some stuff you're seeing with your drone recovery.
yeah.
I mean, what's a good way to be spending time this year? Like I was talking to a lot of kids at school, or maybe they're working and they're trying to squeeze in a couple hunts this time of year, don't really know when to do it. What's your recommendation on that? Like if you got to take off a day of work, what day is that going to be?
Are we starting from the beginning of the season to now, or are we just saying from now going forward?
I'd say right now going forward.
Dude, my personal opinion, I have a harder time killing bucks when they're just on straight lockdown. I'd rather them be searching. Honestly, probably from right now to about the 11th, I would say. If you could get it off, like now is the time to do it because I just find the search phase to be better than lockdown. Not that lockdown can't be great, but you got to have the right doe. Right now, there's a lot of does that aren't necessarily in heat, but the bucks are checking them and just bumping as many as they can, trying to, they got that lust, as I call it. Honestly, right now would be the best time, in my opinion, from now until like the 11th to be able to get out there and kill a
Yeah.
random buck. Obviously, like me and my style of hunting, I would tell you the first 2 weeks of the season is always the best. You cannot beat it.
Yes.
Looking at your wall behind you, I think you might agree with that after this year. But
Yes.
just the patterning of bucks. This is the only time of year I can't pattern a buck.
Yeah.
And that's why I like it. If you ask me, like, I hate rut hunting. I don't hate it. It's enjoyable, I guess I should say. But I usually would never kill the buck that I'm specifically targeting unless it just gets lucky to come in front of me with a hot doe.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. I've like historically never really patterned deer or had a target buck, but this year we kind of did it more how you do it, and
Yeah.
pick out a buck, go the early season route. But during rut right now, like talking to mostly people at school, they're like, man, I had a nice buck showing up, and now he's gone, run off somewhere, and I don't have any bucks in the
Yep.
area. Like for me, that's kind of a yeah, your target buck might not be there, but for me, that's like I don't know, it's like a good feeling of bucks are moving. Just because
Yeah.
my target buck is gone, there could be other bucks moving in. That's my thought. So for a guy like that target buck just disappeared, what would be your game plan? Would you wait for that target buck to come back? Would you hunt during the rut? Like how's your thought process there?
Before we get any farther into this, I should have shouted this out earlier. I'll answer your question here in a second, but I just want to give a shout out because obviously Noah wasn't able to be here with us having so many drone calls right now, and I didn't want to,
Yes.
I didn't want to miss out on the podcast because I was obviously committed to doing it with you. Yeah, definitely a big shout out to Noah. I appreciate him, and I wouldn't be able to do Feathernet Outdoors, especially for a full time job, if it wasn't for all the efforts that he put in. So, but to answer your question, would I wait for that buck to come back? Probably not, because ultimately you need to be in the woods, and there's always new opportunity coming in. And the reason why obviously a lot of those bucks are disappearing is because now they're going to look for those like, and in the I would say from probably like the 25th to the 1st of October, you were still seeing a lot of the same bucks because those bucks are just really just scent checking scrapes in their local areas, but now they've started to wander, and that makes it really hard. You probably won't see a lot of those bucks again until, at least in my experience, till late December, January. Do I even see those bucks that were on my home range?
Yeah.
So it's more of a, are you just the guy that wants to kill a big buck, or are you the guy that targets a specific deer? And that's what you have to ask yourself. For me, I'm the guy that, like, especially early season, I'm targeting one deer. Like, I probably can't see it, but somewhere sitting right back there, you can see the tip of his antlers. That's the double drop. I knew that I wasn't killing anything else. Like, it could have been probably a 190 typical buck in front of me. I probably wouldn't have shot it because I wanted the drop tines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe the same thing with you is shooting that buck. You're like, that's what you had your heart set on. So I was willing to pass whatever had to pass. And I passed, probably 3 or 4 bucks in that sit that most people are probably shooting. But I mean, I just knew what I wanted.
Yeah.
And that's that to me, like I said, to answer your question, I think that's what anyone would have to ask themselves. Are you a guy, you want to kill a big buck, or you just want to kill a specific deer? What is your thoughts on that? Like, what do you do?
I mean, I really haven't hunted enough to say, but during the rut, I think you're spot on when you say you just got to put time in the stand. And that kind of leads me to the question: can you overhunt a stand during the rut when the deer are moving this much?
Probably not, in my opinion, because there's constantly new deer circling in. Obviously, deer recognize hunting pressures. The pressure, the does will probably recognize it, but a mature buck coming through the area, dude, I I know we get into the drone stuff a lot, but I refer back to that because I am fortunate enough to observe what deer do.
Yeah.
I watched like a 130-inch buck today while I was looking for the other guy's deer because it's like natural, you know. You're looking for someone's deer, you see a deer, a nice buck, you're gonna stop and like check it out. And I was checking this buck out, and dude, it was absolutely crazy. This buck circled a cornfield probably like 5 times, and he cut through every row of corn, like completely delirious. Like I've never seen anything like it. And just searching for a doe. And he was just plowing around looking for does. And if you got bucks moving like that and you've got limited amount of spaces to hunt, yeah, you just got to be in a stand. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking. I know last year I hunted a lot of rut, and in the location I was at, like I could see the whole area. I could see a good long ways, and I could see all the deer moving through, and it was constantly new deer. Like
yeah,
might only saw the same buck a couple times, and yeah, it's just all of a sudden, there's a mature buck coming in, and it's like, whoa, he's right there, never been there before, like totally unexpected.
but
But yeah, I think that's the good characteristics of the rut.
I have some to what you're saying. I have some I'm very opinionated in how I hunt, and some of my ideas probably most people don't agree with them. Just in the sense of I will play the wind as much as I can, I guess, but I don't really care about the wind, to be completely honest with you. I just don't.
Really.
I don't because, well, and I think for me, and it plays into my style of hunting, I hunt when it's 70 to 80 degrees outside and I kill a buck every single year, a mature buck. And what I care about is the thermals. It is your scent hitting the ground because it's so hot that time of year that your thermals, like anything, it's heat, it's rising.
Yeah.
And when it's colder this time of year, it is sinking more. So you have to worry about it. Technically, you have to worry about it more, but I wouldn't worry about it as much during the rut as just like a late December, January hunt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting you put into words like that because I always notice I have more scent issues later in the season than I do
100% you will.
early.
And
Yeah, and
it's not the wind, it's your thermals. It's the way that they're hitting the ground because now they're staying at deer level, as to where when you can have a 5-10 mile per hour wind in the wrong direction. It doesn't matter if your heat and your thermals just going like this. You're blowing over top of the deer's head, especially when you're 20 to 30 foot in a tree. And I just don't worry about it early season, and I always kill bucks. And people that drives people crazy. And then I would say this, during the rut, most of the big bucks, a lot of them will come from a bad wind because they're scent checking does and they're smelling what's
yeah.
coming downwind of them. And to be honest with you, a lot of times you're not a factor to them when they're thinking of that. The does might still blow at you. They could definitely still get you, but like to them, that's not as big of a factor. But like from December to January, that's like the only time I really care, if
Yeah.
I'm being honest.
That's that's good to know. So, you being around all these hunters that you are with the deer recovery and all the stuff you do, what are some of the most like broadly effective scent control methods? Is it playing the wind? Is it something to do with like, making sure your clothes are unscented? Like what's your experience with that?
Well, I guess that's another, I'm glad you brought that up because I'm very particular about how I treat my clothes. I wash all my clothes with, baking soda and unscented soap, and then I hang them out outside for a couple days. I want to be as scent free as possible. And a lot of these guys that aren't doing that or that aren't taking those extra steps, they probably, maybe even in the early season could get likely winded more than I do. Because I hear it from a lot of people. A lot of these guys that have come down here to hunt, they're like, "Oh man, I sat in that stand and I got winded." And to me, like I can go sit in those same stands by myself and all the deer come out. And I think it may, maybe that to your point, maybe people should play the wind a little bit more because they're not taking the practices that they need to do to be as successful as maybe I am hunting some of those marginal wins. So maybe I should correct myself on that to your point and say, well, scent control does matter, and I think
Mhm.
that's one of the bigger things is I know a lot of people like to use the ozone generator stuff and I've tried it, but I've just come to realize that I'd rather smell like nothing. And when I tell you that I'm such a nerd about it, this will drive my wife crazy, but I literally shower year round with non-scented soap. Like
Yeah. Year
I don't
round.
smell like anything. Like I do not want to smell like anything ever. And like when I smell it, I'm paranoid about it, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I do shower with non-scented soap at least through deer season, but yeah, year round, that's some dedication right
Dude,
there.
I'm hardcore. I've got like 2 big bottles of it in there. That's all I do. But hey, I don't get winded. So not saying that I never have, but most of the time I don't.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all a part of it. Definitely scent
Yeah.
control is big important.
So we're getting rid of some old tree stands. I guess they aren't that old, but just give them to different guys, hunters around here.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys like buying stands this time of year, like throwing up a quick setup. In my mind, like I've always kind of had a setup planned out at least a month or two ahead of time and had something. But guys that are coming from out of state, coming in this time of year, oh no, where do I need to throw up a stand? What type of stand? How high? And you're talking about the topo stuff, the
Yeah.
reading all that to find a stand location. Is there any good like no fail or like fail-proof way to capitalize on a stand location this time of year? Like, what's your number one go-to spot just out of the blue?
It really depends on it really depends on, the property you have and where you're hunting. Do you have a lot of timber or do you have field edges? Because like for me, I'm constantly, I guess, a creature of the edge. I'm hunting the field edge because the one patch of woods that I have, if I go in it, I'm ruining my hunt for the rest of the day. That's where you might not be because you got deer coming from every direction. So I really do think it is dependent. But again, I'd go back to the thermal thing, and I might say this wrong here, but because I don't hunt timber as much, and maybe you know this better than me, but I believe most people say that like in the mornings you should hunt. I think is it the bottoms because the your thermals are rising, and then on the top in the evening because they're sinking? Is that how it goes?
I could see that. I don't know which one's which. I'd
Yeah,
have to
I'm
look it
not
up.
I'm not 100% sure because like I said, I don't hunt a lot of timber, but like I hear people say that a lot.
Yeah. So what about field edges this time of year? Like are the deer out in field edges like standing corn?
They definitely are, and a lot of it too just depends on the habitat around you, but, I mean, there's always deer around field edges. Like, I try to honestly, most of our bigger deer, like, for me, come from isolated patches. Like, I always find that that big buck wants to be in that isolated patch with his doe or whatever, no matter what time of year it is. If you can find those isolated patches that are almost overlooked, you'll always find big bucks in there.
And you mean the like isolated patches of
Of
timber out
timber.
in the middle of a field or
Yep,
something?
and a lot of times, like, everybody wants to hunt the biggest tract of woods ever, but that's not always where the buck is. Yeah, I strongly believe in hunting the edges. I think the less pressure you can put inside of an area, the better you are to keep your deer around, in my opinion.
Yeah, so there was someone from school that showed me a video the other day, and there's this mature buck. I mean, this thing had one of the biggest necks I've ever seen, and
Yeah,
I mean, it was just walking right through her front yard,
yeah,
and she lived, I mean, almost right in town. I mean, there's only a few acres of woods in that clump right there, and that kind of surprised me. But he was just on a hot doe,
yeah.
chasing her. But yeah, stuff like that. That's a good point. I like that field edge stuff.
I think
Go ahead.
sorry, I was gonna say, like, I've killed 3, like, legit booners. Noah's killed a pile of big deer and 2 booners, and everything that we've ever killed has, like I said, has been in, like, one of those around one of those isolated patches, especially, like, for us early season, but just in general, when we find them, they're always like just slightly separated from all the other deer. Like they're mature whitetails when they get to a certain age, they're not very social.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
herd pressure is a problem for a lot of deer, like too many does. Big bucks don't necessarily like that. The only time they care about that is breeding season. And then any other time they're trying to be antisocial. Just like an old man.
Yeah. You and Noah, do you guys share a lot of the same hunting tactics? I remember um you guys had like did you buy the same bow setup last year? Like both of you bought the same stuff. Are most of your tactics all the same or do you have different ways of doing things?
He's more well, this is a bit we get in debates on the wind every year, and I debate this with everybody. And this is just a topic you will get him and I arguing over all the time, especially when it comes to deer bedding, right?
Mhm.
Everybody thinks and believes that deer move with the wind, and I'm not saying they don't to a degree, but most of the time they don't. And I can tell you this wholeheartedly. I've seen enough deer on a drone, watch deer come out of the same bedroom time and time again on an east wind, on a south wind, on a west wind, and come to the same corn pile. The only thing that deters them is the danger that's ahead of them and whether they smell it or not. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I see it too many times, like, if you're not giving those deer a reason to be afraid, they will come in on any different wind, you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
the only thing is, can you beat that wind if it's a bad wind to hunt them? because they can smell you downrange. I'm not saying they can't smell you, but I'm saying they don't. If that were the case, if deer were moving with the wind every time, they'd end up in the ocean somewhere, and they just don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not the reality of it. That's not
Yeah.
like, and anybody that hunts long enough can observe that, and I think people refuse to accept it because I hear guys all the time, and this is with the wind thing that we get into. I'm not going to hunt that stand because of the wind. Cool, go sit on the other side and watch the deer come out over there. I don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had this debate with a guy this year. I shot a 165 out of one of the stands that I hunt. He's like, I want to go hunt the other side because the wind's not right. I said, that's fine. You're not going to see that deer over there, but you can go hunt him. So he's like, all right, I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to go hunt that deer. And it's in certain areas too, right? Like some of the areas that I hunt that are closer to town, there's so many smells that deer are familiar with, humans being one of them. Scent doesn't affect them as much there because they smell
Yeah.
people all the time.
I can see that. Yeah.
And that's what I told him. And the first night he went in there, after sitting in the wrong spot for 3 days, he shot that buck. He's like, "Oh, I guess you were right." I'm like, "Yeah, I kinda knew that already," but, like,
Yeah, so you said like cover sense, being around people a lot. I know there's a lot of places like almost in the city that I've heard guys kill, big bucks and stuff, and
yeah,
being right in town like that, that's a good point you made. There's probably a
yeah.
lot of human sin already, and they're not going to be as alarmed when they smell that.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever been able to pattern a deer based on a wind? I'm just curious.
I mean, not really. And I really don't pattern a deer. It's kind of, for me, it's always been, I guess, sit in a stand location that I can see a lot and then just observe the deer movement
Yeah,
for a while and say, if I see more deer moving, over here, then maybe that's where I need to move my stand. Like, I really don't run a ton of cameras.
yeah,
I don't do as much stuff as I probably should, but for me at least, it's been trial and error. Now I'm sure Dad gets me in the right area, right? Because
yeah,
he's been hunting some of these properties for many years, and he already knows what kind of
yeah,
the deer do. But I've never really sat down and correlated it to wind. Now, if I went to a new piece, I probably would be doing that. I'd probably be looking at wind and maybe going off of prevailing winds, but then thermals. That's a big one that
yeah.
you had
So,
mentioned.
and then the biggest debate that Noah and I have about the wind is when the deer are in their bedding area, do they use the wind inside their bedding area to dictate where they're laying in that bedding area? Because that's another thing that people say a lot, but I find it to be inconsistent because if you watch that over a period of time, you will see that buck at the top of the bedding area, the bottom of the bedding area, the left of the bedding area, the right of the bedding area on all those same winds. To me, it's like I'm not quite sure I can put a grasp or say that wind dictated anything that they were doing within inside that bedding area.
Yeah,
And a lot of areas, I find it purely situational, and that's what I notice. Like I hunt a place that does have some big timber and some big ridges that overlook driving trails. Every time I find sheds, I find them on the edge of the ridges overlooking the trails. And I think it's less to do with their nose and more to do with the visual of they know where the danger is coming in from. So that's why
yeah,
I say I find it to be very situational in each spot, I think, depending on
absolutely, yeah.
where the deer grew up, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that visual is a big part, especially if you're hunting in the hill country as
Yeah.
to where they'll bed. So what about during the rut? I guess that you had said that they're going through and smelling for does. Is that when they are playing the wind and traveling
Yeah,
based on?
yeah. I think that's when deer use their nose the absolute most is bucks in general, not to sense danger, but to sense or to smell, scrapes. A lot of people don't realize this, they think hunting directly over the scrape is the best way to do it. 9 times out of 10, those mature bucks will smell that scrape from 30 and 40 yards away. So sometimes setting off the scrape is actually more advantageous because they're scent checking it as they go by.
Yeah.
Well, just like a buck would, they'll scent check a corn pile, you know what I mean? They'll scent check a
Mhm.
corn pile to see if the does are there. They'll use it just like a scrape.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So,
interesting. So Dad and I went and we like driving around this time of year and just to look at
yeah.
deer. Like we've got some spots that we'll hit here and there, and just to see what we can see. And we went here probably 3 days ago now, and we didn't see near as many deer as we expected. And our thinking behind that is the does aren't out in the fields because they don't want to be spotted by those bucks, right? They don't want to get
Yeah.
harassed.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're seeing? And does that correlate to how you would hunt a field edge this time of year?
Well, if it comes to actual breeding, which I'm not sure we're at that stage yet, but the majority of breeding takes place in the bedding area. So if the bucks are trying to push the does in there or the does are going in there naturally, that could be part of it. And I think it's just hard to see a deer standing in one particular spot right now because they are chasing, they are being pushed. So you just weren't seeing it as much because they weren't just staying in one particular spot. It's like anything. So I guess I'm not trying to give any details away of where we hunt, but obviously you know the place that I hunt that's near to you, how it's mainly just like a big fence line and some small timber. I see a ton of the bucks that you guys have this time of year at random times of the day where you feel like it wouldn't make sense. It could be 10, 11, 12, just cruising, and they're constantly moving. So and I feel like as soon as a doe does like, maybe to your point, as soon as a doe does hit that, those bucks are just pushing them everywhere. So they
Yeah.
might be hiding a little bit, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So, one thing that I really kind of realized and opened my eyes to last season hunting was I hunted a lot during the rut last year. Like I really pounded every hour I could in the stand this time of
Yeah,
year throughout the month of November. And I really noticed that there's a lot of movement in the middle of the day.
yeah,
Um, and I feel like there's so many guys that they'll hunt the morning till 10 o'clock, maybe 10:30, and then leave. And for me, I did not do that at all last year. If I was able to, I set the entire day. I did not leave. And for me, there's two reasons. One is it seemed to me like there was a lot of activity I was missing midday, and when I go into the stand, back out, and then into the stand in the evening and back out, I'm moving my scent around that property 4 times versus 2 times.
right. Well,
And for
yeah,
me, like if I do that several days in a row and, a week in a row, like that's a substantial amount of scent versus only in once and out once. Is
yeah.
that
No, I don't necessarily disagree with that. A lot of the movement from mature bucks where you can just catch them cruising is between that 10 to noon because that's when the does are bedded down. And when the does are bedded down, that buck will get up, he'll feed, he'll go look for the next doe, and then maybe he'll double back to wherever that doe was laying. And that's why you see a lot of that. I mean, I notice that this time of year all the time. 10, 11 o'clock, those bucks are just all of a sudden they're out cruising because they've come off of that doe and that she's laying down, not doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good to know. So we can kind of agree that it's worth sticking it out all day.
100%. If you can swing it, I do understand. It's like people want to get lunch, they're hungry, they're exhausted, that type of thing. But honestly, this time of year, sometimes it's better off to go in the stand at 10 or 11 and just sit, you know, if you're going to grind one out for getting into that evening or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. So what about food in the stand? I had a guy ask me the other day, is it okay to bring coffee to the stand? Is that scent gonna do anything for the deer? What's your experience with that?
I mean, I don't drink coffee, so I can't tell you about that in particular. But hey, man, I've heard people come up with all kinds of stories saying that they smoke cherry cigarettes and the deer smell it and they come in because I don't know. The buck I killed this year, he daylighted for like 15 days straight. The only day that he didn't daylight was the night of the season, and then I killed him on day two, and I would testify to it because I've killed both. I've killed back to back 170s on day two.
Yeah.
That's why
Do you have any thoughts as to why he didn't show up day one?
we had a weird weather change. And I think anytime, like, here's what I tell people: early season, cold weather is bad weather. People don't realize that unless it's consistent. It has to be consistent for weeks going into the season. Cold weather is bad weather because now deer start doing fall things rather than them being on their summer pattern. Now they're making scrapes in the woods. They're feeding on oaks a little bit longer. They're staying in the timber just a little bit longer, and that affects the movement big time. Now, when
Really?
it's consistent, if I have a consistent week of 80 degrees, 70 degrees going into the season, you'll almost kill your buck in the first week every single year because he's doing what he's been doing all summer. So when people say, "Man, I can't stand this, it's too warm to hunt," no, you just don't want to be there because it is not too warm for the deer that you've been watching walk into the field all summer long at 80 degrees.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. That's good to know. Um, as far as like mistakes this time of year, like you'll hear a lot of success stories, uh,
yeah.
and maybe you don't hear as many stories about mistakes just because guys don't like to tell those stories. But what are some of the biggest mistakes that you hear about or maybe experience yourself this time of year with all the hunters that you're around?
Just moving too much in general. This goes from now until the beginning of the season when people don't see something right away. I always say you can kill almost every buck on our farm if you just sit still for 5 days, and that's the truth about it. People, oh,
Really?
well, I'm gonna move to this stand. I'm gonna move to this stand. I don't know how to give you the best analogy of this. It's like you like let's just say for instance, like you might go to the refrigerator twice a week or something. You know what I mean? But you always do it right at
Yeah.
some point.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell people. Like if you're consistent, at some point that deer's gonna come to the fridge. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I compare it to when I'm fishing, like the thing in my head that tells me to put on a different lure.
Yeah,
Like sometimes for me, it's just I just need to stick with the same lure because I know it
yeah.
works, and
It's
yeah,
like
eventually,
it's like for me, how do I say this? Like I'll eat Taco Bell. I'll eat Subway. I love Taco Bell. I might go to Subway once and eat here, but if you stay at Taco Bell long enough, you're running into me. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And that's what I tell people. Like, and that's just what consistency is what kills people. The bouncing around, and they're like, you just trail cameras, dude. We can get into trail cameras. Trail cameras have made 90% of people worse hunters because they're like,
really,
oh, I didn't he didn't daylight on my and I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. I didn't see him on
yeah,
my camera today, so I didn't go hunting. And then
mm,
every person that I've had out this year, they're like, especially during the rut, like, dude, I saw 10 bucks and not one of them crossed the camera or hit the corn pile because they're just out
yeah,
cruising. And
yeah,
it's like, if you just put the cameras aside and just went hunting, a lot of these people would be more successful. You just got to put time in the stand. And well, let's be honest, hunting or trail cameras have killed people's ability to read deer sign. When I started hunting, I never hunted with a camera. I never hunted with a corn pile. I just looked for scrapes. I looked for rubs. I followed trails and found bedding areas and, where deer are feeding in between going back to their bedding areas. And that's how I
yeah,
hunted. And God, I don't know how many deer just sitting on a trail, just
yeah,
observing deer patterns. And people don't do that anymore. They don't have the woodsmanship that they used to have.
yeah, yeah. Definitely, I can definitely agree with
Not
that.
that it's not that it's not easier to kill a buck now, because if you have cell cameras and you deploy enough of them, you're probably going to have a better chance, right?
Yeah, maybe. Well, and the way I look at it is, if you've got cell cameras, the neighbors have them too,
Right.
and the neighbors of those neighbors have them too.
Yep.
It might not in a area like Ohio where you're hunting with the neighbors. I think that just because one has the advantage doesn't make it easier to kill deer. It
No,
it just brings everybody up kind of evenly is the way I look at it.
I do strongly feel, maybe it's arrogance, maybe call it what you will. And I'll say this about most of our neighbors. Yeah, you can have as many cameras as you want. If I want to kill a deer, you're probably not beating me. Like,
Yeah,
I feel that way in the early season. I mean, I just have not been beat too many times. If there's a deer I want to kill, the bug I killed this year, but I put more time into it. People will just
yeah,
put a camera up and say, and you might get lucky. You might kill that deer. But people will put a camera up and say, oh, I got pictures of that deer. I've been hunting him for 3 years. I watched the deer that I killed this year for 3 months, and I killed him in 2 days.
yeah,
But I watched him every day. And every time he made a move, I went and found him. And I observed all of his movements, like trying to figure out where he was going to be and what his next move was. I moved cameras and stands multiple times before I ever killed the deer. And you know what I mean? There come a point where I was like, I found him so much, and then I knew I had him killed. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And
That's
it takes making all those mistakes before you go hunting to kill them early. And that's what I'll say.
I mean, that's the type of mindset to have in this game. You're gonna kill them before the neighbors, and I know that you do too, because I mean, you've proven it time and time again. And you're definitely one of the most ethical guys I know around here. But yeah, so having that mindset of I wanna shoot this deer and being able to back it and have that confidence that you're gonna do that. That's amazing. And you're an early season hunter. You're an early season hunter. Dad and I have historically been rut hunters, and I guess I hunted early season this year. But seems like Dad can do just about the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
every other year, every third year, I mean, he's killing a nice deer, and it
You're
always seems
you're
to be that
well,
November
yeah.
11th through
Your dad's a
15th.
savage. The one right there behind your shoulder.
Yeah.
That's the one that got away from me that he got.
Yep.
But no, dude, but I'm more than anything, I'm just happy for people if they do get them. Yeah, if you kill the deer, then I'm gonna hunt another deer. Who cares? You know what I mean? That's part of it. And just to see everyone have success, like that's what keeps the sport going. When your
Yeah.
dad reached out to me and said, "Hey man, what tips do you guys use to early season hunt?" I was like, "Hey, this is what I would do." You know what I mean? But I reached out to him yesterday and say, "Hey, actually, this morning, I think I reached out to him. What are you observing? You know, kind of the same questions you asked me, like, what are you observing from the rut? And like, I asked him because I'm not a big like moon guy. You know what I mean? He believes in the moon and a lot of this different stuff.
Yeah.
So I wanted his perspective on it. I'm like, hey, how is this going to benefit, you know, my guys?
Yeah.
And to his credit, I had 3 bucks show up on camera today that I ain't seen in months. So whether the moon had anything to do with it or not, I don't know. They were there, so I can't just say it's discrediting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I mean, hopefully, the goal of this podcast, especially this episode, because I mean, it's prime time rut. People are, full steam
Yeah,
ahead hunting. I think that this is going to be a great conversation for listeners. Just getting the good stuff to know for this time of year. That's kind of my goal is to share information like you're saying, and if anybody listening to this, shoots a deer, send me a picture, especially if you used something that you learned from this show. But I'd love to see it. But yeah, I think that sharing information is good. I think that it's a good thing that a lot of people have going on with social media and all that. And I've got the podcast now. It's a good thing to do. So capitalizing this, I think that these next 5 days, like you're saying, till about the 11th,
yeah.
they're gonna be. This is gonna be one of the hottest weeks of the year. I would call this year kind of a hard, intense rut versus a trickle rut, as a lot of guys would say.
Yeah.
Hunting that hard, intense rut, I think, like you said earlier, it's important to just get time in the stand. So much more deer movement.
As we're watching this, or people are going to be watching this podcast, if you've watched this before next Monday, get in the stand because we're going to have like I don't remember the exact temperature, but it's almost like a 20-degree temperature drop. And during the rut,
Really,
that's huge.
dynamite. Yeah,
That is going to make deer move. And then also want to point out from about the 15th on for the rest of November, if you were hunting scrapes and they're dead right now, that will be about when the deer come in their or the does are starting to come to like their second breeding cycle or the other ones are. So the bucks are going to start hitting those scrapes again. So don't give up on those scrapes. You know, even if they're slow right now, they will get good again. Bucks will start
so
hitting those
scrapes
again.
scrapes are slower right now.
They are because now they've found a lot of does and they're pushing them around. Not that you can't get a buck on a scrape, and you will get them checking it some, but they're definitely slower. I've run all my bucks have pretty much just kind of moved off the scrapes, and you're starting to see leaves covered up on the scrapes, and you'll get a buck here and there hit it, but it's very seldom, and they're with the does right now. And here's another thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but when I'm droning, I'm seeing like 80 does to 3 bucks. We need to start shooting some does. Otherwise, you're not going to see great ruts because they have no reason to leave the bedding area.
That's a good point. So I posted a clip. I can't even remember who made the video. I put it on my story here a few days ago, and it was about should you shoot does in your buck hunting locations? I guess I'm guilty of not wanting to shoot does during the rut in places that I want to kill a buck. And my thought process behind that was, well, if there's not does, then there's not going to be bucks. And then the opposing view of that would be, there's less does, so bucks have to travel more and spend more time on their feet, possibly moving past your stand.
Yeah.
And I think that might be my new way of looking at it. And leave a comment if you're listening to this and let me know what your thoughts are. But
I
I
would tell
think
you that. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that in our area specifically, I think we do need to get some more doe management. Which actually, I'm gonna try and shoot a doe with a trad bow in the next couple weeks. I got a trad bow set up I'm working on,
Nice.
and yeah, I figure that'll be fun.
Not only will you see more buck movement, but here's what I'll tell you. The following year, we have about 1,000-acre farm. I think we shot 15 does off of it last year from inviting people out shooting does.
Yeah,
Because it's just so overrun with those. Every one of our bucks put on 20 to 30 inches more than they had ever previous.
really.
Yeah, and it just made a world of difference on the growth because, you know, herd pressure is a thing. Does consume a lot of food,
Yeah,
and and bucks are antisocial. So it's important. It's very important, and people need to get back to putting some meat in the freezer anyways.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I'd say this year we're not gonna be shooting as many does as we did last year, just because we've already got 2 elk in the freezer. But yeah, I think that the doe management is very important,
So
and there's
something I wanted to, and I want to get your opinion on this because I've been thinking about this wholeheartedly with, EHG being something that's been pretty bad this year, right? And a lot of the more southern parts. Are we part of the problem by continuing to hunt with EHD being as bad as it is? Because I know as hunters, we're all eager to get out there, and then there is still a good doe population. I'm seeing a lot. So don't get me wrong. But are we part of the problem by still going out and shooting the few breeder bucks that is there? Because that's where I'm torn right now.
yeah. So I really don't have enough information to speak on this. When EHD was really at its peak, right before Ohio had that, they had a meeting at one point to talk about
Yeah.
EHD, like a special meeting. I'd
Yeah.
talked to our county game officer
Yeah.
and about EHD, and I'm not sure what the population numbers are in some of those counties, but I think it's one of those things that have they limited tags? Are they going to do that in
They
Ohio?
haven't I don't think they have yet, but I've been thinking about it a lot because I've been seeing a lot of people moving over to other counties and now buck hunting, and I'm just wondering if, like, I don't know, I guess I have mixed feelings on it. Like, if it really is that bad, what's the solution? Because you can limit the number of does that people are shooting, but they're not shooting them anyway. It's the bucks we're
Yeah.
all trying to kill.
Yeah, yeah, I think that I don't know. I think it's pretty situational. I'm sure that you can kind of tell by looking at your herd, how many bucks you've got on camera versus does. I think that keeping a good balance there is
I tell you
important, and
what
that's
what the biggest solution I think they've come to, and I don't know, it's not really a solution, I'm being sarcastic here, is all they did was, they decided to double the prices of tags for out-of-state hunters.
yeah,
So, because 'cause I've had a lot of my guys complain about that because that was something I didn't know happened until it did, but I don't know what solution that was or what that really did, but I would be cool with I don't know because obviously, I do outfitting, but I see it from other people's point of view too. Maybe we limit it a little bit and, give us in-state guys $2.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I really don't have an opinion, and that's all stuff like I don't know. Send an email to your representative, your game officer. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's some good stuff to think about. I think that EHD, I don't know the numbers on it. I know that there's some numbers out there on like what percent of the herd has been lost because of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say that it's probably pretty situational. As far as like right now, like for me, I would just be watching my cameras and saying, do I
Yeah.
see too many does? Do I see not enough bucks? Do I see, just reading the situation and saying, okay, I probably shouldn't be taking a buck from this property this year, and,
Yeah.
and just going like that, trying to help the population a little bit.
I definitely personally, I do see less bucks this year on all of my farms than not the quality, obviously, but, like, I'm seeing less deer overall, I guess, buck-wise than what I'm used to seeing. I don't know if it's related to EHG or not because I didn't notice any of my bucks dying early season. I just feel like in general, I'm noticing less on all of our farms this year.
Yeah, yeah, and I wonder, I wonder if that has anything to do with weather. Like, would that have to do with the fawn
Definitely,
populations a couple years ago? Or
it definitely could, because I just remember in years past when I was hunting across from where you guys are now, the population overall there was a lot more than what it is now. Like, I've seen fewer bucks there this year, albeit some good ones.
yeah,
I've seen fewer bucks there this year, and I don't know if you're experiencing that on your side than I ever have.
yeah, I can see that.
Maybe in our area, that's just due to the fact that a lot of guys in our area are really good hunters. I mean, most of them are. Like, you guys are good hunters, and a lot of people around you guys are good hunters, and maybe that's it. We're just all killing deer.
Yeah, yeah, that could be it. And um, I don't know. Like I said, I guess it's kind of one of those things where you just got to look at the population and say, should I
Yeah.
shoot deer this year? I'll definitely be paying attention as we get into late season here and into next summer, what our populations are looking like, and us as hunters around in that area, we can probably discuss
Yeah,
that and
for
and
sure.
figure out a plan. But
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some good information. So to kind of end it off here, what is something that a bow hunter that's listening to this right now can do over the next few days between now and Monday, like you said, with that weather front coming in? Where does that hunter need to be? What does he need to be doing for scent, wind direction? I mean, how does he need to be hunting this week specifically? Is there anything different this week from last week to the following week?
I wouldn't say do a whole lot different other than just put longer sits in because they're already, the mature bucks are already, like we talked about, moving between 10 and 11 o'clock. But there's going to be a lot more, and I would say a significant amount more daylight movement, in those later parts of the morning now that maybe there wasn't as there should be because of the weather being a little bit warmer. It's like now you're going to see big bucks between that 10 and 12 o'clock just cruising bedding areas all day long when that temperature hits. And I would just say log as many hours as you can within, that Monday and Tuesday and take advantage of that time because it's not going to get any better than right then as soon as that temp starts to drop. So just
Yeah,
be in a stand, wherever, whatever property you have, just be in a stand, put the hours in, whether you're hunting a fence row or you're hunting big timber. Just
yeah.
log the hours in because you don't know when they're coming through. Could be any part of the day.
Yeah, okay. So, and if somebody's going to take off 1 or 2 days of work, are you thinking end of this week or Monday, Tuesday next week?
Man, for me it would probably be, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Obviously most people have the weekends off, so if you got the weekend off, take Monday and Tuesday off, you know what I mean? And just hunt that
Mhm.
weekend into that because I just know those 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, are probably gonna be fire. And always the day before the cold front is always really good too, in
Yeah,
my experience. So those would be the days that I would take off. Probably
yeah,
Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. If you didn't have those days off, take those days off and hunt.
yeah. Perfect. Well, that's some great info, Ethan. I think we covered some awesome topics, especially for the rut right now. How can people find you?
Yeah, so obviously, we have Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, feathernet.outdoors.com. You can look us up on Facebook, like I said, Instagram, and we have a webpage too. So you can get on our webpage and find everything about us, whether you're looking to get outfitting or you're looking to get some drone service or you're just looking to be part of a field staff team and, have places to hunt and have like-minded people and get some discounts and some educational stuff. It's all there for you.
Yeah, yeah. We'll definitely have to have you back on here at some point to talk about that. You guys have got a great business going on.
Yeah, man,
But
I appreciate that. And sorry, go ahead.
yeah, definitely go check out the website. I mean, like you guys have got a lot of stuff going on from the field staff to everything that you do. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it probably doesn't get said enough, and I know it didn't get said enough on this podcast because we were, focused on the rut and things like that. But you know, people like your dad and yourself, and the ethics that you have and how you are with archery and how passionate you are about it and being obsessed with it. Those things are, even to me as someone that's a little bit older than you, the work that you put into it. That's extremely inspiring to me when I hear all the things that you're doing. So push me to be better too. So I appreciate everything that you guys are doing.
Yeah, that's good. I appreciate it, and that's definitely one thing. Just pushing each other to be better. That's what it takes, and it's good for everybody.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate you having me on and love to come on again. Maybe next time we'll get Noah on the podcast and
Yeah.
he's the guru. He's the brains behind our operation. I'm the field mule. So
Okay.
he can go a little bit more in depth to everything that I lack in.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, I
Cool.
appreciate it, Ethan.
Yeah,
We'll see you
man.
on the next episode.
Yeah,